Replaying every tiny mistake in your head says something about your level of anxiety. And I am going to tell you what. I am Pauline, and I am so happy you are here, because it could be that you think that this is just who you are. This is your character, your personality, that you lay in bed at night and you think, oh, well, I did this wrong. I said the wrong thing. I should have done that better. And you just kind of evaluate your whole day. And replaying every single thing that you possibly did wrong. It's not your character. It is a trauma response, and it says something about your anxiety, the level of anxiety that you have. It is a part of rumination. And so ruminating is just, you keep thinking, often in loops, like you just keep looping the same thoughts over and over. And you keep thinking about what you did wrong, what you said wrong, what you could have done better. And there is a reason that you do that. It gives you a sense of safety. It gives you, it serves you in a way, otherwise you wouldn't do it, as is with all trauma responses. So why do you ruminate? First of all, it feels like you're working on something. And that is because you don't feel safe now or worthy now. So as long as you feel like you're working on something, you are working towards being safe and being worthy. And rumination gives you, it's almost a coping mechanism to deal with anxiety, to feel like you're working on it so that you will get to a place of safety in the future, or to a place of worthiness in the future. And so what rumination a lot of times comes down to is you keep finding problems and trying to fix those problems to get to that place of safety. And this is a habit. It is not a strategy that works. And your fear brain is convinced that this is a strategy that works. If I just, fix all the problems and nitpick enough to make sure that I don't miss any mistakes, then I will get to a place of safety. And that never works, because this is a habit. And a habit is a very different thing from a strategy, because it needs different things to be healed. If a strategy would work, you would feel better and better and better while you're using the strategy. And rumination never ever makes you feel better. There is a lot of research around people that have the tendency to ruminate have much higher levels of anxiety, much higher levels of depression. And so you can conclude that that is not a strategy that works. And so it is a habit, and you need to break through the habit by creating a new habit. And that means creating a habit to feel safe. And just to give you a very concrete way to do that, one of the things that helped me so much was to write everything my fear brain was telling me down. Have it all down on paper, so that it doesn't keep looping in your head. It doesn't keep repeating itself in your head. As long as you keep things in your head, your body will feel unsafe, because you feel like you have to fix everything before it will be better. But writing things down actually tells your fear brain, I got this. It's on paper. We're not going to lose this. We're not going to forget about this. I can always go back to this. And sometimes just the act of writing it down will help you break through whatever anxiety you are feeling. So that is a habit. That writing down is a habit. And it's a habit that leads to a better strategy than ruminating. Why you also do this, replaying every tiny mistake, is it is a form of self-criticism and hyper-focusing on flaws. And the reason you do that is because you are just used to that. You're trained in that, pretty much. Fearful avoidance, I want to say all of them. I think it is 100% of the fearful avoidance have had a form of criticism and judgment in their youth. This is something that I cannot find in other information about fearful avoidance, but it is something that I see so clearly as a pattern in all the more than 3,000 fearful avoidance I've helped in the past 5, 6, 7 years. that criticism and judgment was a part of your childhood, probably. And so it makes so much sense that when you leave the house and you don't have that source of criticism and judgment that one of your parents or both parents was, that you internalize that and you start doing that yourself. That's just kind of the inner voice that you then have. And making mistakes was probably unsafe when you were younger. And so when you make a mistake, you criticize yourself and you judge yourself and you're just very hard on yourself. And that is not the best way to go about it, but that's just what you're used to. That's what you're almost trained for. So replaying every tiny mistake might feel familiar almost, and it might feel like you're working on something and that it's a responsible thing to do, but it's actually just a trained mechanism of you trying to be perfect, to be safe, really. So what it really is, like the deeper lying root, is that it is a defense mechanism. Replaying every tiny mistake is a defense mechanism. And that is a defense against getting yelled at and being unsafe, because that is probably what you've experienced when you were younger. And you're trying to catch the mistake before other people do it. That's why you replay it. That's why you look at it from so many different angles. And that's why you feel so much fear around it, because you equate making mistakes with that's wrong and you will get either yelled at, you're unsafe, you will be abandoned. There's always negative associations around making mistakes. And so you ruminate to try to catch the mistake before somebody else does, because more than punishment, fearful avoidance, hate not being in control, and unpredictability. And so what you kind of do is you already punish yourself before anybody else can do it. And this is a very common dynamic in the fearful avoidant that you might not be even aware of, because replaying every single mistake, I remember it feeling almost soothing, because I felt like I was in control of something. I wasn't aware of that, obviously, but it felt like I was doing a good thing. I was doing a responsible thing. Of course, I have to look at my mistakes and learn from them and, be very harsh about how I should do that better next time. But it is a self-punishment. It is a form of self-punishment. So you want it to be predictable. And what you want to get to is that you love yourself through making mistakes, because there is not a reality and there is not a person on earth that never makes mistakes. We are here to learn. We are here to grow, and you cannot do that without making mistakes. And learning that mistakes really are okay, not just like a rational, it sounds good, like everybody makes mistakes, that's okay, but really feeling it in your body that it's okay to make a mistake and you are safe while making mistakes, that is a whole different ballgame. But that is the one that will give you the freedom and will cause you to not ruminate anymore when you're laying in bed at night. I don't do this at all anymore. I used to after every single social event, I would replay every single second almost, whether I said something wrong, whether I looked the wrong way. And it was so tiring. It was so tiring when I look back on it. It was exhausting, and it made me not really want to go to social events. And it made the social events very exhausting. And now I think I love going to social events, and I don't ruminate. And that doesn't mean that I'm not attuned to other people. Like when I do say something wrong, whatever wrong may be, I still can read people's faces, like being a fearful avoidant is a very good training to actually be very social and have a very high emotional IQ, because the hypervigilance you once had becomes very capable social attuning. And so I can see when people react in a way that I think, oh, that's interesting. Maybe what I'm saying, doesn't come across the way that I want it. And then I can be just completely calm and ask that, or course correct, or do something about it. So it's not that it makes you cold when you don't do this. It means that you don't feel the intense fear around it when you've made a mistake. So that is a completely different experience. And another thing that this replaying every single mistake does, it actually keeps you from surrendering to a relationship or the relationship. And therefore it keeps you from getting hurt. So when you retreat and replay every single mistake and think, oh, I'm so bad, whether that's conscious or unconscious, it keeps you from really going for the relationship and surrendering to the relationship. So your fear brain is afraid that if you let go of this rumination, if you let go of being so harsh and critical of yourself, then there is no reason for you to not really go for the relationship and surrender to it. And that feels so scary for a fear brain that is just convinced that you will be abandoned, you will be rejected, you will be hurt, you will be betrayed. So it makes sense that you find ways to either make yourself feel unworthy of all that love and attention, or start having doubts about your partner, and just find a way to not surrender. But that is also done by replaying every tiny mistake. So get to a place where you can love yourself through any mistakes and any things that you do that you think are wrong and you are used to getting yelled at for, because nothing is an excuse for getting yelled at for. And no mistake should be met with anger. It should be met with empathy and understanding that we all make mistakes. Let me know in the comments below whether this was helpful and valuable, and whether you do this, replay every tiny mistake, and whether you thought that that was something that you did and that was a sign of your character or your personality. I really do want to know. And if you want to get out of this, if you are done with this dynamic and this exhausting almost pattern of replaying every tiny mistake and then going to sleep with that, healing the roots of the fearful avoidant attachment style is probably the fastest way to also release all these kinds of things, the small things that you think are normal or feel kind of self-soothing. That feeling of self-soothing is nothing compared to the freedom and the love that you feel when you've healed those deeper lying beliefs that cause you to do this. And that's what we do in Healed and Happy, the online program. So if you want to know more about that, the link is in the description below. I would love to guide you out of the fearful avoidant attachment style and into secure attachment. I am so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one.
Healed and Happy is a tailor-made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of the fearful avoidant attachment style.